Alright guys, so to move further into the build, we need to get the retracts for this aircraft. Either Sierra Giant Scale pneumatic retracts with a full air system, or E-Flite 6120 95-degree rotating retract. Well, since then, there's a lot has gone on since part 3, where we last left off on the top Flite P40E Warhawk build. And let me tell you, the retract system that I had chosen for this build is awesome. I went ahead and went with Sierra Giant Scale retracts. 100-degree rotating retracts, pneumatic, awesome quality. I did not regret making this purchase. Alright, I came very close to getting the E-Flite electric retracts, the 6120, and you know what? I'm glad I didn't go with that one, and I'm glad I went with Sierra. No regrets whatsoever. So with this build, that's what we're going to be doing, installing onto this aircraft, Sierra retract. So stay tuned, sit back, relax, enjoy the video. And oh, also my DLE-20RA finally arrived as well. So we got the retracts, we got the engine. Let's get building. Alright guys, so we got the flaps in construction at this time. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock that out. As you can see, I got the flap main base already started. Take a look at that flap. The sheeting needs to extend all the way to the leading edge. The balsa stock leading edge gets glued on the top edge of that sheeting, so ensure that you got a full sheet of balsa as your base. I went ahead and I fixed my issue, so we're good. Alright guys, so we got one flap done, and you know, this one is because it's just a lot of individual cutting. Each rib needs to be cut to about 2 1/4 in length each. Alright, and then each stringer in between is basically cut to fit in between each rib. So that's a lot of cutting. So you got your stock, your 316 by 316 stock, and you're gonna cut it to fit in between each, right? And then from here, once this thing is all dried, we get to taper this to match the plans, and then also taper the trailing edge here to about 1/32 thick. And once that's all done, we can cap it all off with this thin 1/16 ply, which we're going to use it to also cap off the leading edge and then the 2 stringers like that. Alright, so basically this is the flap, completely all done up, sanded, beveled. Alright, trailing edge beveled right there. We got all the ply cap strips, how you want to call them, to stiffen up the flap in its entirety. And yeah, good stuff. Alright, and also the front bottom leading edge area has a contour. Just verify the plans. Alright, but other than that, there's the flap. Alright guys, so we got Sierra retracts. Alright, so after that unboxing, what I got as well are some of the roll bar gauges that we're going to be utilizing on this system. Alright, also to get the size of this tank, so we can go ahead and make that former hole that's in the fuse at the moment, make it a little bit bigger to accept the tank. Alright, so we're just gonna get that bigger, this one a little bit bigger, so we can situate the tank in there. And that's what I'm gonna do here, is just make a template. We're just gonna outline the outer perimeter of this tank, just like that. Alright. Yep, so just like so. I'm going to go ahead and cut that out and then trace it onto the former. Got that mark, so I can either use my small sanding drum like this. I also got one of these, and those of you who are into RC cars pretty much know what this is for your it's basically a big sanding drum for your wheel wells, for your XM bodies and stuff like that. You can use that to sand that off and make it all nice and neat. So this one, we're just gonna either use this or we can use a small one. We'll see which one is best. Right now, it's just trying to get in there and try to get this thing all sanded, or even open up wider. All right, so I'm gonna go do this. We're gonna try to keep it straight in there like that. We're not gonna angle it because we don't want to make a taper on this and make this edge sharp. We just want it to be flat, just open up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this on time lapse because the sound of this drum roll is gonna be pretty loud. All right. So there you go. Alright, so as you can see, we got it in there, right? So we can either use silicone fuel line, and we can cut the fuel line in half and run it around the former, right in here, and also in here. If you're going to do that, you might want to have to make this hole just a little bit bigger, but yet not too big so that the fuel line can also grab onto the tank. All right, either that, or I would use either that or goop. All right, being the fact that goop also remains flexible, it'll help dampen any vibrations and stuff like that. And should you need to remove the tank for maintenance or something later on down the line, you won't have to damage your formers. All you have to do is just pull on the goop joint and stretch it out, you know, snap it off of the former and also the tank, and just go ahead and slide your tank back out. All right, so you can do it that way. All right, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use either goop or E6000, and I'm just going to lightly place some beads around the area, not in the backside here because you won't be able to reach on that because all this will be sheeted. All right, so you want it to be where you have easy access to these areas when everything is all said and done. So since situating the rails right here, putting it on here, now this is the reason why in the instructions of this, when you're doing this part of the build, the rails and stuff, they tell you not to glue in the rails first. All right, now there's a reason why you don't want to glue these rails in before you attach it to your retract system. All right, because once you attach this to your retract system first, you can't really see any difference, right? Now the way this is set up, it has a slight raise. In other words, I don't even know if I'm saying that right. It's level with the surface. All right, so this is straight from here to here. It is straight. However, comma, if you were just to use your regular block, just like so, without doing anything, and you put it on here, just like that, and then you put the other one on here, and you glue that in. Let me bring it down. Hopefully, we can see this. All right. Now, do you see what I'm talking about? You see how it looks like a ladder, like a step, all right, high and then low. That's the reason why they tell you not to glue this in beforehand. Now, we actually need to get these blocks to line up with each other like that. Well, like this. And to do that, you will have to give a slight taper to one side, right? And this side here has to have an opposite taper. And then once you see that, now they're in line. All right. However, you will still want to have this thing bolted down onto your retracts first while you're inserting it down in there and gluing it in place. All right. You want to have it glued in together with the blocks and the retracts. All right, so that way you know it is not being forced either one way or the other. For example, if you were to glue these blocks in now, even with a taper, let's say it's slightly off a little, right? And then you come in and you bolt down your retracts. Let's say the backside has a little dip. Now you're torquing this retract, the rear side, once it tightens down, you're putting a lot of force down on one side and then the other, so the retract is not true anymore. And so what that does as well, if it twists anything here, it might cause binding of your retract and all that other stuff. Well, in this case, I don't think we're ever gonna, I mean, we could still kind of deform that. All depends on how bad you torque it down and stuff, right? So glue your retract to, I mean, not glue, but secure your retracts to the rails first, and then insert them in there and glue them in place, making sure everything is all lined up and all that stuff, right? But before you even do that, like I said, you will have to taper your rails. All right, so this one, like I said, this one I have taper going this way. Let me see if I get my ruler here. This taper is actually going like this. All right, that's my taper for this side. All right, and then for the opposite side, this taper is going this way. All right, now you could also verify this by looking at the back shear web ply. All right, I don't know if you can see that here. This back shear web ply right here, all right, the top end, that will also help you guide your rail like so. I'm blocking everything, you know. All right, so if you look at that back side here, right here with I'm moving my ring finger, as long as this rail is lined up with that, you should be okay. But still, I would glue, not good, I keep saying glue, I would attach these rails to your retract and glue them all in at one time instead of individually. All right guys, as you can see, I got the rails there. It's just tack glued in, just so I can make sure everything is situated right. Now you have to make sure that your center line of the retract is as based off of the plans, right? So if you actually look at the plan, it will show you the exact pivot point of your retract. And so what I did to get a reference is on the plan, I measured from the back plate here to that mark that they indicated on the plans, the actual pivot point, and it came out to 2 5/8 inches. All right, and so that, as you can see right here, I went ahead and I made my mark. All right, this line here and this line there, and that will correlate to my retract as well. There's my pivot point. I went ahead and I put a Sharpie mark right there and right there up to the top, so I know exactly where my pivot point is at. All right, and so with that said, if you look where it's at relative to the retract and the actual base, sorry about that, I'm out that far. All right, let's go. There you go. It's about that much out. Therefore, I am not trimming these pieces off. All right. Now, mind you that I can custom length this because I'm cutting it off of a piece of different ply. This is the one that comes with the kit. The one that comes with the kit, it's already pre-cut to the length. So if you're going to use this, you will be somewhat very close to the tip, if you see what I mean. Alright, you'll be very close to that screw hole right at the edge of that ply. So since I'm cutting my own ply out of this, I can adjust the length. Now also double checking to ensure that this will also clear once everything is on there. Alright, so the retract will clear underneath the pod, so we're good there as well. So yep, that is where my center line is at based off the plans, the recommended pivot point. And so now I will basically cut this open slightly to allow this 1 inch width to fit in between the both rails. All right, and then from there you can see how far back the cylinder is going to go into here. All right, so it's not even going to pass it's just going to pass slightly behind that ply shear web, maybe a little bit off of the bottom spar, maybe, I'm not too sure. I'm gonna follow the template. I'm gonna place it there, and I'm gonna see how much. It'd be best if I could just remove this ply piece and go from there, but I glued that thing in there, so yeah, I'm gonna have to cut that out. So we'll see. All right. Ply pieces, and this is going to be my new rail. All right, so now we got these two rails now. That is way better than the included rails in the kit. All right, more dense ply. This one is 3 ounces. This is the one, or 3 grams. This is the one that came with the kit, and this one's thinner, and this is also 3 grams. So, you know, a little bit more, same weight, but for it being smaller, it means it's denser. We're gonna tack glue the rail onto here so that we can, all right, and so here, just like so, just a drop there and drop there, just to hold this bowl in there. All right. Yeah, so just like so. And then I get my template. Well, first we need to get we gotta get 2 5/8. 2 5/8 is the pivot point for this retract, all right, or for the based on the instruction manual, the location on the plans. All right, so that is the pivot point. In other words, right there on the retract, that pivot, that's where everything pivots to go up and down, right, just like that. All right, so that's the line. So this eventually is going to go in there and line up just like so. All right, but we need to open this up. Just from there. The main thing we're doing is just trying to get the opening for the retract so it can fit in between the rail. And since I got this already pre-marked, all right, and that's what I'm doing here. There you go. And so, since we got that marked, I don't know how well you guys will be able to see this, but let's go bring it down like that, hopefully. This is where trying to get all this on camera is a lot of fun. Alright. So from here to here, that's how much material I gotta take off. I have to change my brushes on my Dremel. So that's pretty much that. And from there, I will send it straight. Alright, so this is basically what we got. Now, I didn't have to, if you see the spar in there, I didn't cut it all the way through. I just basically, it's almost like a bevel. So majority of the spar is still attached to the other ply, and also attached to this top ply. So it really is just it's just a little bit of a bevel there just to clear that cylinder. I can still clean that up just a little bit, but majority of the top spar or bottom spar is still attached. And then yeah, we'll see from there. But other than that, retract at the pivot point this is where it's marked. It's barely, I mean, it really doesn't even protrude that far back into the I don't know if you can see it. See right there's the tip of the cylinder. Right there's my pivot mark, and it's just right there, really. So the main thing is making a hole on the other side to get that nipple there. All right, and then from here, this will go and attach right here, and it still clears. So that's where it's gonna be. So if you're gonna utilize the included rails, your screw holes is gonna be right at that tip, right, really at that edge. So I don't know if you're willing to chance that all the way up to the tip like that. I mean, your hole is gonna be right there at that edge. So that's the reason why I did it this way. I made a hardwood ply, and then there, and then on the bottom side here, I'm gonna extend this. When I glue the doubler in the bottom, it's gonna go all the way to the front as well. Really straighten that. What up? All right. So, yep, that's basically that. And how I'm gonna beef up the gear to make sure everything is nice and strong is another piece of this dense ply is gonna go and get glued under this like that. All right, all the way to the edge. Eventually it's gonna be, you know, sanded and the same width and everything as that. All right, and then to make it even better, I'm gonna take and just utilize that stock ply, and it's also gonna get butted up underneath that second piece of ply. All right guys. All right, so got this block on there, and I epoxied this bottom block. This is the stock block that came with the kit. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use that, butt it up against the additional ply that I made to kind of give this more area, glue area, more strength, kind of support each other there, right? And then from there, I might come back around and underneath that epoxy some of this carbon fiber weave, carbon fiber tape, epoxy it or resin it in there, all right, to kind of strengthen that whole area up. This side here, I already it's just drying, and then we'll come back around and actually taper and sand this thing and get this block in there as well. All right, and I just removed the retract. I screwed the rails onto the retract and then popped it on there with epoxy and held it in, unscrewed the retract and removed it. The ply did not move. It wasn't flexing, no nothing. So it was in its relaxed state when I removed it as well. So I know for a fact there's no, these rails are straight and within the range of the base here. All right, so I know for a fact it's gonna go in there perfectly when it's all said and done. Same with this side. All right, because you don't want any twist on your rails when you're trying to tighten them down. All right, because it's just gonna put unnecessary torque onto the complete retract, and you don't want any type of binding or whatnot or hang-ups and stuff. All right, especially if you're using electric. All right, so just be mindful with that. All right, yeah, so basically what I did was I just used the hole there like that and put my screwdriver down in there, made a mark, used a Sharpie type deal, and then place my wheel over that mark. I'm doing this real quick like that, so but you can see my four corners, 2 dots there and 2 dots there. We're right smack in the center. Right. All right, guys. So now we're going to basically make our landing gear wheel well. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I went ahead and I traced out the 4-inch wheel, as you can see right here, out of that pattern. So right there's my wheel. You can go perfectly in there, and it still has room for should like the gear bend or the leg bend or whatever during flight, right? But should not bend really. Who knows, right? You always got to prepare. So went ahead and did that. So we know that fits. So I went ahead and I marked my center right when the gear was down. I used the post of the landing gear. I removed the actual tire, the wheel, and everything, and you could see here on the side where the stud goes into the gear. I just stuck my tool right through that, and it gave me that exact location. So now what I'm going to do is just stick my pencil in there, get that right here. So this is where the wheel is supposed to be. So we got that centered, and then from there I'm just going to trace this on. I mean, can't get any easier than that, really. And then we're gonna cut this open. I'm gonna rough cut it first, and I'll cut it kind of close to the line, and then we'll come over with our big Dremel drum sanding thing, and we'll come in there and sand it on nice to the line. Alright, so you can see we got both sides done. Now it's just time to get in there and start cutting. So get a nice fresh blade on here so we'll not be destroying the wood, and then we'll get started. Alright, so we've got fresh blade here, and I'm just gonna go in and we're just gonna start cutting. We're not gonna do everything all at one shot now. Alright, so just take your time. That is almost satisfying. Kind of terrifying at the same time, but yeah, satisfying. Alright. There you go. Yep. Awesome. So, as you see, I left a little around, and we could go ahead and cut out the rib here, these two, and I'll do it from the other side of the wing, right? A little bit through here, and then flip it around and do it there. And then we'll go ahead and clean this up, sand it to the line, and we got the ply pieces that we will use, right? Or we can use like I don't know, some balsa, right? But we can use this right here, and we're gonna line everything up in there with this. All right. And we could also make a bottom deck to this if you want. Cut up another piece of, like, let's say 1/16 balsa, and you can put that on the bottom of that. Or you can just leave it like that. When the sheeting of the wing is on there, it'd still be somewhat enclosed. You could as well cut little slits here and have it recessed all the way down to the actual sheeting. Alright guys, so we got some carbon fiber weaves basically being epoxied right inside that cavity. Right, this is the bottom spar. I'm cutting these strips of carbon fiber weaves and just epoxying them within that cavity from the whole width. All right, from there to there. All right. So we got the carbon fiber placed in both wing lower spar that was gouged out, so we can clear the cylinder. All right, so we got this side completed. This one's done, dried, ready to go, and this side we're just waiting for that to cure, and then from there we will move on to probably doing the wheel wells. Guys, so basically tracing out my bottom wheel well base or deck. Alright, so this is going to be the bottom of my wheel well. Alright, and this one right here, we're just going to cut it close because we still need to sand. Just start sanding up to the line. Probably even a little bit into that line, but we won't know until we get that thing all down in there and fit it. All right, and then we'll go ahead and locate our rib locations around this liner, and then we'll go ahead and start putting everything in on the left side wing panel. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and we are going to build the wheel well in the inside. All right, so there's many ways you can do this. However, this kit came with this thin piece of ply that we can utilize as our wall, basically, to go around for the inside well, like so. All right, if you do not have this, you can use was a 1/32 balsa. You can just cut strips like this and just edge glue them together all the way around. All right, and then make yourself a deck with a sheet of 1/16, right, for the bottom to seal everything off. All right, so with that, I got my own wheel well liner here, and so what I'm doing, so I placed it down in there. Make sure it butts up against the top sheeting, or this is considered the bottom sheeting. And what I did was I found the location of these ribs and I put a mark right on all four sides here. That way I can go ahead and notch them. Yeah. So I made these notches like such. All right. That way this liner can slide past the ribs and go further down. And why do I want it to go further down? The whole reason why I want it to go further down is so that I can utilize this bottom rib as my base. All right, so let me go ahead and flip this around this way. Alright, so I can utilize this bottom rib as my base for my sheet. Alright, so I can basically push this all the way down until it touches the ribs. It will basically cause a nice seal. I could go ahead and put a drop of thin CA to seal, to glue this to this ply sheeting. All right, so just gonna go ahead and push it down like so, being careful not to break the sheeting, because you still can break this. It is very flimsy. All right, so now I'll find those two ribs right there and right here. All right, and then make sure it's touching those ribs. Make sure the surrounding area is flat. Right, it's not waving. Right, make sure it's flat all the way around, and pretty much that's how you will make it your wheel well. And then you will take your thin CA and go ahead and drop thin CA all up on the seam right here. And if you look on the opposite side here, you can see that my sheeting is completely flat and touching the ribs right here. And then we have you can see right here where our liner went past the rib, and you can see how much it is right there. All right, now unfortunately I made the hole, you know, just 4 inches. I made it kind of big, and so I got a little gap. This is not really touching each other, as you can see right here. All right, but that's not a problem, because I can use some of this leftover and come from the back side and glue it right over here. And then from the inside I can easily fill that with wood filler or micro balloons and epoxy to completely hide that that seam. All right, and then ensure that everything up top is really butt up against this top sheeting or bottom sheeting. So pull it apart, get it all nice and tight against there, and then drop thin CA all around the seam right about there. All right, and then we could come back, we could trim all this off, and then sand it flush with the bottom of the sheet, the wing sheeting. All right, and so with that, I can show you right here. It's the reason why I put this little notch there, just so you can see that once you put this on and the wheel goes down in there, we still have a lot of room for the wheel, for one, so that it won't snag or grab against anything within this opening, right? So we have enough for this wheel to travel and go into that wheel well and tuck away. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start gluing that in, and then we're gonna go and take care of the opposite side. All right, guys. All right, guys, so we got this all glued in. Glue is fairly dry right now. Even better, I could even go around and cut it with the scissor. Alright, so staying pretty high, so in case you it splits, it'll split further up. So yeah, I'm using my Lexan scissors for cutting wood. That ain't a good thing, is it? But it is what it is. You gotta be careful if you're using scissors, because it will chip your ply. So just be careful when you're doing, if you're gonna do that. I'm just getting it rough cut then we'll come back with the sandpaper and sand all that nice and smooth. Alright, now you have to get in there, guys, and start notching out a little bit off of the ribs, because in this particular situation these ribs have a slight curve right here and on this end right here, so this will not sit flat on there. It's not going to sit flat. It wants to kind of curve with the rib, alright, at those ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark where we're at, and then we're going to notch it, make it come straight down. Alright, that way this will lay flat and flush against the bottom of those ribs, or the top of those ribs. Alright. So there we go, we got one side done. Alright, one wheel well done. That will go down just like so. Alright guys, test number 1 on the Sierra Retracts on the Top Flite P40E Warhawk. Alright, so it looks like I gotta adjust the down a little, and probably just the up. Put a restrictor. I haven't put a restrictor on here yet, so alright guys, so I adjusted the air for up and down, so let's go see how it is now. This is down, this is up. I think I should make it come down a little bit quicker, make it go up slower. Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and prepare sheeting for the wing. Alright, so what we're doing here is I got one side, and this one will be cut and will be utilized for the left and for the right. Let's go ahead and cut this sheeting. This cut. So we got that going on for the wing. Let's go move some of these things out of the way here. Alright, now for this right here, we will need to do a little bevel, a slight bevel on this up front, just so it can meet up really nice on front of the leading edge there. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and turn this around towards the camera, right about here. Let's go pull back a little, or a lot. Alright, so we got the wing fully planted on this tabletop, alright, with the jig. Alright, so all the jigs are pretty much pressed down. The wing is seated really nicely on that, and yeah, we're good to go. Alright, so I already had sanded the top section of the wing, so all the ribs are all flush with each other, all the way to the trailing edge, to the leading edge. Alright, and pretty much left and right. So what we need to do from here is just basically situate the front leading edge, and by doing so we got the two pieces that already been cut out. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to get this angle right here. Let me go ahead and bring you guys in. Alright, so this is the angle that we need to compensate for. We need to cut that. Alright, so we line up the front of this sheeting with the front of the leading edge. You will see where it overlaps, and so this will have to basically cut that out. Alright, and how am I going to do that? You can use the chalk method, or you can use the pencil method. Either which way. Alright, chalk or pencil, it don't matter. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and let's go see if I can move the camera just a tad bit. Alright, just right there. I'm going to put some pencil mark right here at the edge. Alright, and then I'm going to make sure this is lined up there and there, and make sure the leading edge is completely touching. Yeah. Put it down like so, and go ahead and push down on that edge. In a perfect world, it should transfer over, as you can see. Very faint line. I can still see it, and that's what we're gonna cut. Alright, so we went ahead and made that cut. Now we're gonna go ahead and place this on here, as you can see. Now we have that transition. going from here to here. Alright, now what we need to do is we need to actually put a slight bevel in the front of this leading edge all the way down so this thing can sit perfectly right in there. Alright, cool. Alright, oh, what was that? I always like to wipe off all that excess. Alright. Okay, so we got that going on. Now we got to start preparing for the remainder of the sheeting towards the back. So here is where we're going to kind of select. Unfortunately, all the I got sheets like this and it has all the discoloration. I don't have the nice, you know, nice looking one like that. I don't have a lot of it. So at least we got this one right here, and then these are the, oh, that one should be okay. These are the fugly ones. Oh, this one's okay. Yeah. This was actually supposed to be for the bottom, but I don't know. It's alright, because they're all gonna get glassed anyways. It's just, you know, I like the way it looks when it's really clean looking, you know. So, anywho, alright. So we need to go ahead and sheet that whole top section just like that. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, I don't know, let me see. I think I'm gonna edge glue 3 sheets together. Like so. And then get my mark under here, cut the excess off, and edge glue it to this side, this corner, to fill that up. Alright, let's do this. Alright guys, so what we're doing right now is we're tracing the panel or the sheeting that I prepared earlier, and so instead of having to remeasure everything, just utilize that the one side that you cut out and measured and shaped and all that, and just go ahead and trace it up and do the same thing for the other side. Alright, now this is for the wing. If you guys are lost right now, what I'm doing is just tracing the outline. You see once I'm done. Alright, so I'll pull this off. Now this is the right side wing. Alright, I went ahead and I took about a good 10-15 minutes to make up the 3 sheetings, to edge glue them together, put them over the wing, locate all the areas that I need to use as markers to make my cuts. Alright, and so this right here will fit directly to the left side of my wing panel. It will just drop right in there. And so I flipped it over, checked it on the right hand side wing panel, and sure enough, it's the same thing. Alright, so went ahead, made up my 3 sheeting edge glue for the right side wing panel, and all we have to do is pop this on there, trace it out. Now this corner right here, we have to utilize the excess from here. Alright, so this excess sheeting that you cut out here, you just basically flip it over and put it on this edge. And then from this one, we'll just flip it over just like that. And we'll go ahead and pop it on here. And we can go ahead and glue this. And then we can go ahead and cut it, line this up, cut it again, sand it, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Do here, I'm just going to get my straight edge ruler, and we're just going to follow this line all the way through. So this line all the way through, right to the end. All right. Just like so. And then alright, so what we're gonna do is I got this thing of yarn, string, however you want to call it. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and route a lot of this inside the wing. Alright, and this is so once we're ready to install, let's say the flap servo or the aileron servo, we will have this available and ready to go. Alright, so I gotta route one all the way to the aileron bay, and what we're going to do is we'll just tape it off. We'll have a lot of slack, you know, just in case, and then we'll just tape it in there and tape it to the hatch. Alright, and that will be the this will be the aileron. Alright, and then we'll do flap, and so here we'll just throw that in there just like that for now. Alright, and we'll do this to the other side as well. Cut it. Should just did it all at one time. Just make sure that it's not hanging up on anything. Alright, so this is my flap right here. Alright, that way when that time comes, all I have to do is open up the hatches and I could go ahead and route my servos in there. All right, now you got left or right wing panel, and we got left wing panel. All right. Just like that. Make sure everything is good there. And I'm going to use this as my guide to get my center cut. Alright. Just like that. So we got the wing basically sheeted bottom, and also now we got the top. Alright, so we got the whole top side all sheeted up. Feels really good. Alright, so let's go take it off of the wing jig here and start preparing for the next step. Alright, so exciting. Yes it is. You know, when you get to a certain stage of a build, you know, it just makes it that much more exciting and fun. We are gonna start on the wingtips. Alright, and so with that said, on the wingtip here, we have to kind of dissect this W12 rib. We got to dissect it in the center. Alright, that way we have a we got extra surface here for the 1/16 sheeting to attach to. Therefore, you get a good joint, an overlap, and a base where this thing can lay up against like that. Alright, because what we're going to be doing is we'll be attaching all this like so. Alright, all this is going to get glued in. Oops. I'm just trying to mock it up real quick so I can show it to you. Alright. All this is going to be glued in just like such. Alright. And then from there, it's going to get sheeted on top of that. Alright. And then, after that's done, we are going to install a wingtip aft block, right about, I think it's right about here, and this block, wingtip block, is going to be like this, somewhat like that. And all this is all going to get shaped. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. And so how I found center of this is I just utilized the W13 rib. Let's go flip it around real quick and I'll show you what I did to the other side. Alright, hopefully you can see this. Alright. What I did was I took the W13 rib, since it's the same thickness as the W12 rib, and I just used the rear end like so and put it flush against W13. Went ahead and made my score mark or my line with a pen in the opposite direction or opposite end, and right here is the thickness all the way down of that W12 rib. And then from there I just dissected that, and so I went half of that thickness with my straight edge ruler like such, and I just put it in just a tad bit, and that is my cut line right there. Alright, and so then I took my X-Acto, I lightly scored that area, and then slowly chipped away all that balsa. And then I came back with a little sanding tool that I made, and I just ran it on that edge to clean it all up. That way the 1/16 sheeting coming in has a nice butt joint with this sheeting that's on the wing. Alright, so that's what we are going to do. Now we're going to finish this up, finish up the wing tips so that we can go ahead and install this wing onto the fuselage and get it all bolted down. Therefore, we can go ahead and finish up attaching the horizontal and vertical stabilizer and fin. Alright guys, let's get to work. So we finally got to adding the wingtip, the actual block, to this actual wing. Alright. Alright, so I referred to the plans to get the actual measurement thickness here. and also the diagram or the actual cut or rounded feature up here in the front. All right, so the plans, this basically is just rounded off, and it continues all the way to the back, right about here, and all the way to the tip. All right, so refer to the plans to situate this block wingtip. All right, don't just put it wherever you think it is. All right, double check your dimensions and your measurements and all that stuff for the proper placement of this block. All right, I know it's tempting just to grab it and kind of center it in between this and the trailing edge tip and leading edge, but if you do that, you have too much back here, too little up front. All right, so measure on the plans. The actual block itself right here is basically 1/2 inch, and that will give you and set your mark for the front. All right, now let's get a carving. Got the wing tip rough in, basically. It's only roughed in right now. Still got to final sand it and do all that. You can see how it comes down like that, and then it'll be rounded off. The bottom is more like flat looking. That's how the contour is on this thing. So it is what it is. But yeah, there it is. Now I can go ahead and from here I can start mounting this wing on to the fuse, drill the wing bolt plates, and hurry up and start getting the horizontal stab and vertical fin glued in. Alright. So what we're going to be doing here, utilizing the string method to get this wing centered on this fuse. I also got my tape measure just in case. Alright. I'm going to start by not overstretching. I'm going to go base up a corner right here. Nope. I used to go this way a little bit more. A little more. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and double and triple check this thing. I'm going to try at a different area as well. know if I go right here to this one. All right, guys, so there's my mark. All right here, the tip. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus. The tip where you see that black dot, right at that tip of that tape basically is my mark. All right, and where I'm going to be gauging this thing from is right at this corner, right at that corner, right smack in the middle on both sides. That's where I'm going to be gauging it from. All right, so with my line not pulled too tight, but taking out all the slack, all right, I drop right there, if you can see it, right at that corner, the front of that tape. All right, I'm gonna bring it back over here, making sure that everything's the same, and we're gonna drop this, keeping the tightness of the string right there. All right, string is still pulled tight, not too tight though, where I'm overstretching, because if I pull too tight, this is what's gonna happen. All right, I could be a little bit off. All right, but just enough, same tension. All right, so it's right smack, same length. Now, is that very, very accurate? You know, it all depends how you look at it, because you can be pulling just a slight bit more on tension on the string, giving it you know, a different measurement. So it is what it is. I can tell you this much: it's as accurate as it's gonna get, unless you take out a tape measure or something like that and get actual numbers. But for what it is, I think this will be great, and I think it is centered for what it is. All right, so we're gonna lock it in there. As you can see, I went ahead in the back end. You can see underneath that tape, I got 3 black lines that go from the former up to the bottom of the wing, and that 3 lines basically is gonna ensure that this wing is gonna be put on there when I drill the wing bolt mounts, right? So it's locked there, it's not gonna move, and it should move. I can easily reposition it back to those 3 marks. All right, but for what it is as well, you can see the wing saddle. All right, there's minimal gaps, so it's sitting nice and perfect on there. All right, on both sides. All right, nice and flat. So all the way to the front, it's almost flush, pushed up against that former. All right, so the only thing from here, guys, is let's go and get that 1364 drill bit and get our starter hole drilled right down into those blocks. All right, so we're using a 1/4 by 20 tap, basically. So we're threading the wood blocks, the wing mounting blocks, and we just want to take it slow. All right. Some people use the drill. I don't like doing that because you really cannot control sometimes when you're starting, and what happens is if you go too fast, whatnot, you can actually cause the thread to go completely crooked. All right, I like doing it by hand because I can feel and ensure the start of the tap, the thread, all the way down until it actually gives and becomes fully threaded all the way through. All right. Because with the drill bit, the drill, you cannot feel it, and you just go straight down. Yes, it's faster, but I've done it before in the past, and sometimes it doesn't turn out right. So I don't want to chance it. I probably could do it now. It's just I still don't want to chance it, even how many years of doing this. So I'm already at a certain step on this build. We don't need to be backtracking to break these blocks off to put a new block in and all the other stuff, because I was lazy and just wanted to use the drill bit. I mean the power drill. So do what you will. It's your plane. So we will run some thin CA down into these threads. We'll make sure it's completely dry, and then we'll come back in and rethread the same block. All right, and what that does is the CA will go into this hardwood block, will saturate this block, and will make those threads harder so that it won't have any chance of. All right, so the thin CA has fully cured in here. All right, and I'm running the tap right back in there, right back into the thread, rethreading it again. All right, so this will make nice hard threads with the CA in there, and we're cutting it, cleaning it all out once again, and then yeah, what's left behind is a real strong thread core, if you want to say. All right guys, so we got the fuse propped up, and I'm utilizing the center marker right here, the center line. All right, this is where the former the crutch is located. All right, so this would be my center line where I'm marking as it being horizontal to the surface. All right, so you can use a bubble leveler type deal. I kind of marked it like that, and I cannot use the top. Really, this one is not gonna work because it kind of slopes a little, right? So I'm using the main center piece right here as my line, and based off of the plans, it also shows that as a reference line if you're looking at it based off the horizontal stab. Now the horizontal stab should be basically straight and level, and when I looked at the plans, basically it's leveled in line with this body line all the way down. All right, so if you were to dissect this in half, right, and have like an imaginary line, it should run parallel with this line right here. All right, so it should be straight, making it 0 incidents or indents, or however you want to call it. All right, you could still fine tweak it and everything like that by sanding the saddle or the stab base right here. All right, we can easily fine tweak that to either bring it further up, or if you're looking at it this way, if it's tilting to the left or to the right, you basically will shave off a little on one side, the opposite side, and bring it down. All right, so this also would have to be in line with the wing. All right, so all this measurements just to ensure that your aircraft, for one, don't look funny, and then two, it will fly how it is intended to. All right, true and straight. Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and find the actual mark for this horizontal stab based off of the actual wing. Alright, so we gotta make sure that we're equal distance. Alright, so I'm gonna start over here at this corner. I'm gonna find a mark, and I'm gonna pick a spot here. This one here, I'll go from the inside about 35. Pick a spot here, same place. About 35. I'm going to try here as well. Right at this tip. At the tip of the stab tip itself. That's 25.5. Same here. At the tip of here. 25.5. Alright. So we got 35 from corner of the aileron to this corner right here. That's 35 on both sides, and then from this tip to this tip we have 25.5, and so they're both equal. So we got the placement now for the horizontal stabilizer. It's within the same equal distance. Now we need to make sure that when we look from behind, that the horizontal stabilizer is not crooked, you know, it's horizontal and in line with the wing. Alright, so from here you can get the idea of what we're trying to do here. Is you can see that the horizontal stab, if you find a point like right here at this end and this end right here, look at the distance between that top of the wing. Alright, it should be the same distance or almost touching as far as the view is concerned, depending on how what angle you're at. So if you're over here, right, so just be mindful what angle you're looking at, just like that. Alright, and make sure we're equal distance. So I think, based on what I'm seeing, is that this can go like that, just a tap bit. Alright, so just like something like this, something like that. Alright, so we got the horizontal stab basically in line with the wing, and also distance between the trailing edge of the wing to the stab tips. Alright, so when you look at it from above, everything should all be aligned, and you shouldn't see the wing like this and the tail like crooked. Alright, so that's what we're striving for. So we're gonna go ahead and mix up some 30-minute epoxy. I'll just do equal parts, just the right amount of epoxy. Go ahead and get it on there. Make sure we're all straight. We are centered. Touch it. It looks good. See, we are centered right smack in the rear, right here. So I know we're good there. And then based on this, I have my actual tool here, but this one's a little harder to judge. But that's the reason why I made those lines. So I'll put this right here at the line of the horizontal stab. Make sure it's align with that mark, and then look where it's at relative to. So we're pretty much in the ballpark. So we're good there. Now it's just a matter of waiting for this epoxy to dry. Epoxy fillet on. That wasn't intentional. That was, it just made a nice fillet. So I decided to just bring this to anybody's attention. We all know that this is the hinge point 1, 2, and 3. All right. Now, for the vertical stab, if you look on the plans, it's doubled up in there in the trailing edge. While down here, as you can see, I added balsa stock right in that general location where the hinge is supposed to be. All right, I didn't see anything on the plans showing a block there or anything, but you know what? I feel much safer knowing that my hinge is gonna be embedded into some actual wood and not just that thin 1/4 inch piece, if you know what I mean. All right, so now at least I know for a fact that my hinge is going into something more media. All right, so just like so, and then all this eventually is just gonna, this is for the bottom belly pan or whatever you want to call that. This one right here, that's gonna get glued in there like such, and then the side blocks, which are all right here, already pre-cut. All right, so with that said, let's go and get this thing glued in. Also, just a little note, all right, if you're building this kit and you come to this stage of the build and you're following the instructions and you did the same thing I did, we glue it all together and then put it on. Well, I did prepare this rear end to accept that whole assembly. If I did not do this, it would be kind of difficult to get that whole assembly on here. You see this piece of 1/4 by 1/4 balsa, I just fit that in there. All right, so that's just a piece. Without that in there, you try to put this on, good luck trying to separate this of your hand when you got all nothing but epoxy all up in there, you know, and you're trying to fit this in there, trying to situate everything. There's no way you're gonna be able to spread that up here to accept this. All right, you can try to put it up in like this, and you might end up, when it gets to this part, you might end up cracking your joint here. All right, so how I decided to do that was I took this piece of 1/4 by 1/4 balsa, wedged it in between, and what it does, it widens the rear end up, opens it up. All right, now you can basically put your glue, put all that in there, then come in from the bottom and take a long probe or something and slide that balsa, that piece that you put on there, move it away, and all this will clamp down. All right, and then you can go ahead and wick your thin CA in this area right there. So that's how I got that. All right, just wanted to put that out there for those of you who are probably trying to sand this straight and all this, trying to make it fit. Whatever you do, don't sand this thing straight, because then you're not gonna, it's not gonna mate up right with your rudder. All right, so whatever you do, don't even mess with that. Just do that, just put a spacer and then knock that spacer out when everything is situated. All right, guys. Alright guys, so we're going to go ahead and epoxy the whole tail section onto the fuse. Alright, so we're going to double check our measurements again. Even though I got my tape or my marker there, I'm still gonna double check, alright? Make sure I'm still 25 and a half. And 25 and a half. Alright. Now we need to make sure it's horizontal and in line with the wing. That I get to go further back and look. Alright guys, so you can see this is what I'm looking at. Alright. If you the aircraft is not really leveled on the bench. However, it doesn't matter. At this point, the main thing we're looking at is that tail. Horizontal line, equal distance on each side from the tip down to the wing. Tip right here, that tip down to the wing. Alright. Making sure that as well as the vertical stab, vertical fin, I mean, is completely straight. Alright. So if you see what I'm seeing, it looks perfectly in line with that. Alright. Alright. So we're gonna go ahead and mix some epoxy, 30-minute epoxy here. Go ahead and get this thing done. Fillet there. Since I touched it, I'm going to double check it again. This is just what you do. If you don't want that thing to move and get set when it's dry. Alright. Still got some epoxy here. Alright, so got that all glued up, double checked everything. I'm going to go ahead and take off this tape that I used as a reference, a marker. We're not going to need this no more. But if you just saw that, I moved it again. So I'm going to have to double check this again. Alright. So we're going to get 25 and a half. And 25 and a half. 25 and a half. 25 and a half. Alright guys, so we're going to basically start in closing up the front end. Alright, so I don't have my 4-inch spinner yet, so what I did was I utilized the spinner plate here to make a complete 4-inch wide disc for the front, and that's what I'm using. I'm just using just foam board right now as my base plate there. All right, nothing is glued in yet. Everything just all tight fit. And so I got blind nuts on the back side of my engine to hold the engine in. I'm gonna put a little bit of epoxy around these blind nuts to hold that in place. The only reason because you're gonna have a harder time to remove the engine off of this engine mount if you had nuts and bolts behind here, right, or nuts behind here. You won't be able to really reach around and grab, put a driver back there or anything like that. So went ahead and did it this way. I've done it like this before a few times. As a matter of fact, there's a few kits that tell you to go ahead and do it that way. Other than that, yeah, the other way to do that is if you had the aluminum engine mount with threaded bolts, right? It's already threaded, pre-threaded, and that way all you have to do is just pop on your engine and screw it in. So with that said, this is how I am going to do it, because it's all I got right now at the moment. So I went ahead and I made my hole for my ignition. My ignition is going to be in right in here, and I still need to do my I drilled out the hole for my throttle cable. It's right in there. I just don't got my throttle cable yet, so it's still easy to work on because everything is all underneath, exposed under here, so it's still reachable. Before we also do the top plate, I have to get a template for the high and low end right here. All right, so we're gonna put a piece of paper or cardstock at a certain measurement here, kind of overlap it and find the exact location for the high and low needles and make it come straight out, mark it, and so when we put the top block on there, all we have to do is flip that template back there and mark it and drill right through. All right, so that's how we're gonna do that. Yeah. All right, so I made this template. I'm gonna put the hole directly over the high and low needle, right? Just like that. That will be in line with this hole, and this hole will serve as access to those adjustment screws. All right, and now from here we need to go ahead and secure that so it doesn't move. That's the reason why we have tape right here on this side here, and then when we're not going to use this at the moment, we just flip it over and it's out of the way. All right, so make sure this thing is steady, doesn't move. All right, because if it moves now and you already did all this, your cut's gonna be off. All right, so make sure that's stationary. Right now this tape has been used already, so I'm gonna have to put a new piece of tape just to hold that in place, like so. All right, and so when I'm ready to use this to make my hole or mark my hole, I'll go ahead and plop that on there. All right. The other thing is that even with the hole there, and if you've been in this hobby for quite a while, you know tuning your engine out in the field sometimes can be a pain in the rear. And so locating your high and low needles with the screwdriver tip can be sometimes a task in itself, especially when you're trying to find it through this hole. Right? So just imagine that, and you got your screwdriver, your tool, and you put it in there, and you're trying to look for the actual screw itself. Right? The other thing is trying to locate to ensure that it's on the low end if you're trying to adjust your low end, or the high end. All right, and so to ensure that your screwdriver goes down in the right needle that you're trying to adjust, you can put yourself a guide. All right, it could be either straws, pieces of blocks of wood like this that I made. All right, and what this is going to do for me, go ahead and put that in there. Oh, wrong way. What that's going to do for me, it's going to allow my tool to just be able to locate the screw heads. Right? Now, even with this block at the moment, I have to ensure that I'm 100% certain that my screwdriver is on the low end screw or the high end screw, depending on which one I'm trying to adjust. Now, I could still make a mistake and be putting my screwdriver on the low end when I'm trying to adjust the high end. Therefore, you can also put a divider in between this, right? And so I can put a piece of balsa straight down the middle of that and glue it in. That way we know for a fact that when you put your screwdriver in, it's going directly into the individual screw that you're trying to adjust. Hopefully I made sense in all that. Alright, so this is going to be glued to the top block that's going to go on here. Alright, so the hard part is trying to get this thing all right. Alright, so let me go ahead and move my light. I thought this light was going to be able to help you see in there, but apparently it didn't do nothing but be in the way. Alright, so once we shave all this down and we get to trial fit this in there, I can look from the bottom, right, and then add the glue to attach it to this piece of wood. Alright, so I'm not worried about locating that hole from there because we got this template that will just go right over, and we can just make the hole small and then work it bigger and bigger until we get it to the right size. You've got to remember that this is going to be the top exposed, so you don't want your hole to be so big because then it will look kind of awkward. You have a hole right there. Unless you make yourself a little hatch cover, you can do that as well, depending on how you want to go about this. You can eliminate this whole thing by cutting out a little hatch access, a little panel. You can do it that way too. Alright, so whatever your heart desire, how much work you want to put into it, do as you will. There's a lot of ways to do these things, but I can't show them all. So this is what I am going to do, and let's go check it out and see if everything goes as planned, because sometimes it don't. Alright guys, so that's what I got. Alright, so as you can see, all those right there is just for support. So when I remove the engine, this stays right there. And then once I get this block on there, after everything's all sanded and this is placed on, I'll glue this to this block from the inside, right? And then from there, I could go ahead and take off these supports. I probably could leave these two supports there, just for extra strength, maybe. We'll see. But I think just that by itself, glued onto this, would work. Maybe a little support, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how everything goes. But other than that, yep, that's pretty much how I'm gonna get my tool to go directly to the low end. As you can see, it's touching the low end needle, high end needle. All right. And yeah, so that's how I'm gonna get that done. All right, so from here now I can go ahead and position my template thing to go directly over the hole, just like that, and then I can take that in place and then move it out of the way. All right, and then when everything's all said and done, just pop it back up there like that, and it should be just right. Alrighty, so let's go take care of that. So we're going to go ahead and start shaping this block right here so that we can go ahead and start gluing and locking everything in. Alright, so what we can use, we can start using our rasp. Alright, use the rasp to cut it down pretty quick. Alright. Or we can use a planer and cut this thing down and start shaping it. Alright. So whichever you guys choose to do, I'm going to do with the rasp. I know I got a better rasp, but I don't know where it's at though. Let's see. Hopefully I can get you guys in the camera. We'll get it roughly shaped first. I gotta be careful when we get to this part here that I don't actually damage that part. So what I'm going to do from here, since I don't have I have a wood planer. It's just the planer that I got is for real heavy jobs like doors and stuff, actual woodworking. You know, if I were to use it here, I'll probably gouge the living crap out of the damn freaking balsa. So I'll just use this blade like this just to get majority of it down, or at least close to. Yeah, there you go. That's good enough for now. I can do the rest with the rest. To cut this down as close to the side of the fuse and to the ring. All right. Not too close now, but. Guys, so now, well, I got the carburetor intake there, just laying on there. Still need to, you know, basically trim it and form it so that it can lay nice and flat on here, right? But that's later. Main thing now is to open up the holes for the carburetor low end and high end adjustment needles, right? So the reason why I still got this there, so now I could just pop this there, and now the thing is do I want to just make two little holes for the screwdriver to go in, or make that actual cut to match the actual square box? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put two holes there. We're going to try the holes first, and if the holes don't pan out right, then we'll just cut it open. Alright. Alright, so I went ahead and I recessed this piece here because the balsa was just so soft around this area. Even when I put the thin CA to kind of harden it up, it's still, I could already see over time, utilizing this thing, it's going to end up, even with this thing being glassed, it's still going to end up chipping away all the entrances there for both needle holes, right? And so what I did was I recessed this. That way I can put this real thin ply right in that recess, like so. And then we'll go ahead and drill that down. And now, even when this thing is glassed, shouldn't be able to damage the balsa anywhere around this opening right here. Alright, so that's the plan. And alright, so there you go. So we got the ply base on this. That way doesn't damage the balsa. So when you're fondling with this, yeah, I said fondling. When you're messing around with doing your adjustments, go straight down into the actual screw. You don't have to keep messing around with it. You just go straight down, you adjust, come out. Straight down, adjust, come out. Alright, you can see it in there. So there's the, I don't know how good you can see that in there, but go in there, just unscrew it. So yeah, that's pretty much that. That way, this is going to be glass, but you know, 3/4 ounce glass, guys, it doesn't give like a solid hardcore shell where it's unbreakable. You can still just put your nail right through the glass and it'll have an indentation. So if you're thinking that adding 3/4 ounce glass is going to strengthen your structure, no, it's not. All right, It's just to give you a barrier or a surface so that you can paint. That's all that's for. All right, so for structural wise, you want to use a heavier glass and stuff like that, not 3/4 ounce. All right. All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and start prepping the cowling, the included plastic, the three-piece plastic cowling that came with the kit. All right. Now we're preparing it to accept the fiberglass strips that came with the kit as well. All right. So what we're doing is we're gonna sand the joints, right, where the three parts of the cowling meet. If you look in the exterior, you got the front and you got the two sides. All three meet with this line. So that's what we're doing. We're going to sand all that so that we have roughed up the surface, and then we are going to you can use a 30-minute epoxy and glue this to the joint just like that, and that will stiffen everything up. All right, I'm going to use Z-epoxy fiberglass resin, finishing resin, to go ahead and do that. And yeah, and then we're gonna go ahead and put body filler on the seams, sand all this, put body filler, sand it all smooth, and get it primered. All right, so what we're gonna do here is we are going to mix up some of this lightweight body filler, and this is by Evercoat. All right, this is Evercoat Rage Gold. All right, this is automotive body filler. Hopefully it's still good. It's been a few years old, sitting here at the house, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix it up here. I kind of put a over because I don't feel like having to remix some more later on. You can tell this is I can feel it. It's kind of old, but it'll still work. Mix it up good, just like so. And we're gonna go ahead and start putting it on this cowling. I already cleaned up this cowling. All right, so we wiped it down with we sanded, we prepped it. All right, and after we prepped it, basically we wiped it down with wax and grease remover. I'm not too worried how it looks at the moment, as long as it's going on and into those crevices. That's the main thing. And so we can easily sand this thing smooth. That's kind of the reason why I got tape on here. Trying to be clean and everything and not be all over the place, but you know, when you're in the rush, not in the rush, when you're in a rush to do this before it dries, it may look like a lot. It's only because we're trying to build it up over those seams, and then we'll basically be sanding this and cutting it down to make it smooth and flush with the surrounding body. All right. Like I said, trying to be very nice here and all, but it is what it is, guys. Where's my blade? It'll eventually become nice once we're all done. The cowling, as you can see, it makes kind of like no sense, right? People looking at it, they're like, wow, why'd you even bother putting that much body filler if you're just going to sand it all off to look like that? Well, it's all going to depend on one thing. Once you apply the body filler and you're sanding it down, keeping your sanding tool, you know, nice and straight. If you had just put a little thin layer, you won't be able to feather it in properly. You're going to end up having a ridge or a distinct dip or a raise, right? As you could see where the sanding paper did not take off, that's because it's actually blending this area because this one is higher, right? So if I just put a little strip, I wouldn't have gotten this part to really blend in. Therefore, the front end is gonna kind of like droop down, all right? Just like the body line. You don't know where the actual high end and the low end is at, so it's best to just go ahead and put a little over the actual intended seam. That way, when you're sanding, as you can see where it took off and where it did not. All right, so this one was a little lower because this one was a little higher than this part. All right, so, and you could tell this area in the front, they both met pretty well. They were pretty much even, so that's the reason both sides were cut nicely and only left behind the centerpiece. All right, so you don't know exactly where the low end, the high spots are at, so it's best just to go a little over. Yes, it's gonna be a little bit more sanding, but it will save you having to go back and reapply the body filler because you know, it was either too low or too can't say too high, but it's either too low or you need to refill. All right, so this way I know it's only gonna be a one-time deal. I'm only gonna sand this thing once, you know, and then smooth it all out and then go ahead right into primer. All right, so protect yourself. All right, remember your skin has pores and everything like that, so you don't want this type of stuff basically going into your pores, into your bloodstream. All right, so I went ahead and put some prep salt on a clean paper towel, and then I'm just gonna wipe all the surface that will eventually get painted, primered and stuff, right? Get a good once over. Basically, this is removing any type of grease, contaminant that's on here, especially before you use any glove, you know. This will take all that off and prepare your surface to be able to accept paint better, right? And prevent any type of paint failures, as in fish eyes or wrinkles and all that stuff that will end up having you to sand it back down and redo it. All right, so there you go. And then from there you take another clean towel and you just go over everything and just wipe it all down. All right, you can use a tack cloth once you're done, right before spraying, all right, to ensure that there's no lint and all that. So that's another thing you can do. All right. So I got my primer. This is what I'm going to be utilizing. Since for small jobs like this, we don't need to break out, you know, like 2K primers and stuff like that. I mean, unless that's what you want to do, but for your typical backyard guy or hobbyist and stuff like that, we'll basically have like Rust-Oleum products and stuff. So you guys, this is not a problem to use. Um, Still, automotive paints can still go over top of this. I mean, it just says automotive primer on it, but you can utilize the Krylon primer. You can use Rust-Oleum primer, even the 2X. So it really all depends on what paint system you're going to be utilizing. Make sure that if you do decide to use others, that they're compatible with each other. So do yourself a favor and go and test them, you know, so the compatibility. Therefore, you don't have any mishaps or any chemical reactions and all that stuff that will end up causing you to have to redo your part. Alright, so go test it out first. I know this will work for what I'm doing. I'm just going to give it a good shake. I already did this off camera. Alright, so we go ahead and start spraying. First, what I like to do is get into the little grooves and stuff, alright? So, just real light sprays. We don't want to apply everything all heavy at one time, alright guys? So, just light sprays. Alright? Try to get your overlaps, but in this case, my spray pattern, my spray nozzle it is what it is. This is only spray can, so if I was using my gun, that'll be a different story. And I'm behind here. I'm not wearing my mask or respirator, which is a no-go, guys. So the wind is blowing that way, and I'm behind, so I'm not getting any of these fumes coming towards me. Alright, so just like that, just your typical light coat first. And let that flash off a little, and then we'll come back and put a second coat. It should be good enough. 2 coats. 1 light coat, 1 medium coat. We should be good. Alright. Yep, so I got the cowling pretty much primered up. As you can see, the seams are pretty much gone. So, yep. So just waiting for this to dry. I'm not gonna wet sand it or anything like that yet, because we're still far from actual painting. So this is gonna stay like this for the duration of the build. So yep. And then from there, it's time to start adding all the fiberglass parts, pieces. All right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and start building up the bottom, aft end of this fuselage. All right. So we got the bottom center plate, this one right here, which all this was traced out and cut out. This is off of the plans, so refer to your plans and get all your measurements and be able to cut your actual pieces out from the 1/4-inch ply balsa and your, I believe this is 1/32, 3/32 type balsa. Alright, so I already done this a week ago. I already saturated this sheet up here with Windex. You can use water, you can use ammonia, mixture of water. So do how you will in regards to soaking your wetting your sheeting, so that you can bend it to the form of the former. Now, This one right here doesn't really require that much bending, so you could even do it dry. It's just a slight curve on the top, really shallow curve, so it's not gonna really stress the balsa as much as if you were doing a full or half moon type radius, you know. So this one is not bad. So this one requires you to glue to each former, yet you also have to utilize 30-minute epoxy to glue this plate to former 8 right here, and also glue it to the actual sheeting. Mind you, when you do this, you gotta be careful with your actual landing gear wire, so ensure the epoxy doesn't go in there and also into the actual torque tube thing here. Alright, so what you can do ahead of time is put some petroleum jelly, kind of smother it into the torque rod here, the torque tube thing, and put a little bit around the hole area, both that plate and also your balsa. Might want to be very careful about the balsa part here in the outside area, because depending on what covering you're going to utilize and stuff like that, you might have an issue with either monocoat or any type of adhesive that's adhering down really well around this area. So use that as with caution. I would definitely do it here. Alright, this one, if should anything, you'll be able to break it free regardless. Alright, so just wanted to kind of put that out there before you start doing that. Now, those of you who are actually doing retractable tail wheel, you have no problem with that. Alright, so we got some petroleum jelly, some old school, old fashioned Vaseline. Alright, so basically saturating the inside here, this torque rod, the sheath here. Alright, just putting some petroleum jelly down in there so the epoxy doesn't have a chance to go in there and seize this whole torque rod thing. Alright, and as well as the landing gear or the tail wheel wire. Alright, so as long as we keep that like that, should be okay from potential gluing of that tail wheel here to the wood. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up some 30-minute epoxy. We got some, Z-epoxy mixture type deal. And for the amount that I'm using here, it doesn't pick up on my scale, so it's going to have to do it half and half, equal parts. That should be good. Go ahead and get some of my tape real quick. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah, I think I went just a little over on my tape there. That's all right. So yeah, guys, so we are very close to getting this P40 all framed up and all done, or at least the framing is concerned. And then the real fun begins, and that is the glassing the panel lines, rivets, you know, the primering, the rivets, and then getting it all sanded down and ready for paint. And it's really exciting when it gets to this stage. And you can see in the background there, playing on the TV screen, that is my Cessna 182 top flight build. And if you guys haven't watched that yet, and you want to see that Cessna, I know most of you have already, but we do got some new subscribers and new viewers who haven't really ventured into the channel yet. So, you know, get a look at it. And we got some rivet jobs there, fiberglass work and stuff. Just one of many. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and apply epoxy to this piece. I'm going to shot. And then I will apply epoxy to the top of this block or ply, kind of shy of that hole. I know the epoxy is going to eventually squeeze into that hole area, so just be mindful and be careful. I think I'm going to go ahead and put some epoxy, petroleum jelly around that hole there up top, because I definitely do not want this to get glued down in there. But at the same time, I don't want the alright, we got that taped there. I'm going to go ahead and get the back end here. Push this torque tube thing up in there. Let's go make sure everything is centered here as well. Place this tape. This back end is flat, so we're not too worried about that. Sorry about that, got in the way. Alright, now let's go finish taping up the rest. And like I said, just keep your tape over the formers so we don't concave these areas that are unsupported. Alright, because you don't want this to have like a wave effect. All right, so keep your tape kind of thin, that way it's only going over that former and applying the pressure where need be. You don't have to, I'm only putting it right where the former is at. Alright guys, so the aircraft is upside down. Now we have full access of everything in the inside, right down in there. Alright, so what I had done off camera basically was I ran some epoxy in the inside right here at this joint, right at the front end right there in the bottom that connects this to the actual saddle. All right, and so I did that. All right guys, so what we're going to do now is flip this fuselage over, that way we can put some thin CA in right into each former to lock this in. Alright, so let's just go ahead and move things to the side here. I really hate putting the fuse directly on top of the table like that, because I don't want to get any more dings or dents into the side frame. Alright, so let's go pin you down this way right here. There you go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wick some thin CA into these formers just to lock in the top sheet here. Alright, so hopefully you can see that on the camera. If not, then it's alright. We can get it all done. And right here at the back. Alright. That's that. Let me flip this over without hitting anything. And then I'll take care of this top piece right here. Just like so. I'll just also do this side right here on the back side. Alright. And then I'll just do this as well right here. Cool. Alright. So we got that all glued in. Awesome stuff. And see how this is still remains straight. Alright. Don't put any pressure on the areas here. Alright, because you don't want this, like I said, to kind of look funky. Alright guys, so we got one side basically sanded down at the same angle as the former, all the way to the back. Alright, front as well. I need to do a little bit more sanding right here in the front area. I'll double check that real quick. And then yeah, and this block basically will be, sit flush right there from the front to the back. Alright, you want to make sure it's touching the former and also the sheeting top and bottom. Alright, cool. And we'll go ahead and start gluing that in and getting this backside all done up. Alright guys, so we got the whole back end basically blocked up, sheeted, capped, however you want to call it. What we need to do now is basically get this thing, these two side blocks blended in with the side of the fuse and this top, or technically bottom, sheeting right here. Alright, now you need to go ahead and verify your plans to the exact curvature of these areas. Alright, so they actually show, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this. Let me see. They actually show right here on the plans. Alright, we're former 5 all the way to former 8. You see the blocks right here, and you can see exactly where it needs to be removed. And the end result is this nice gradual curve, all right, the roundness of the fuselage. All right, so what we're gonna do is we can go ahead and since this is soft balsa, I basically use my if you have a planer, I just use my blade basic box knife. I just went ahead and cut off all the little excess basically around the perimeter. That way less to actually sand. And then from there we're gonna go and start off by sanding this flush to the sides and the top sheeting or bottom sheeting here, and then we'll concentrate on the actual rounding and blending of the area. All right, so I got my sanding blocks or my T-bar sander. I'm using 100 grit sandpaper right here, and the main thing here is just to get this thing sanded flush with the seating, top sheeting and this side here. I'm probably gonna have to lift this up just to kind of get away from here. But other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on time lapse. That way it's not that boring. All right, so we got basic shape. We got as much as we could, you know, before we start hitting the side of the fuse, which I didn't want to use the rasp on because we'll end up gouging this area. You could put tape on that too as well as a gauge, but we're fine here. Now what we can do is get the 100 grit sandpaper and your T-bar sander, and we'll start shaping it. We're not going to start off with going round first. We're just going to start getting this to blend in with the sides and the top. All right, we'll worry about the roundness once we get that, and we'll start gradually. We'll use another method, in other words. Alright guys, as you can see, all the sanding, how much sanding this will produce. That's the reason why I decided to do it outside. Alright, so there we go. We got that pretty much roughly shaped. Alright. As you can see, that is the rough shape of this piece. Still gotta take care of some other things here, like making the lines nice and straight. You know, we gotta bring this thing up, make it straight. If you guys know anything about polishing shoes back in the olden days, you basically take your cloth and you buff, right? So same idea with the sandpaper, right? You just basically put it on there and lightly just go back and forth. You will get that perfect radius, right? You gotta be careful though. This on the top is already thin. This is just a 3/32 balsa. Your main deal is to really just get these high spots, this to blend and cut in, right? So on this case, instead of doing the whole thing at one time, you might want to do just the one side each. Alright? Alright guys. So for this, we do not want to use really coarse grit sandpaper, because if you were to use, let's say if I were to use 120 or let's say, you know, 150 or something, if you're not careful, you'll end up making the corners too thin. Not here, but here. Alright, and you don't want that. Our main goal here, like I said, is just to knock this high spots down and kind of give it and blend it in with that curvature like the plans. So I'm using basically 220 for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on one side first. Just really lightly. Just like this. If I were to do this, it would work, but you will see that the sandpaper is sanding here at the same time. And with that said, if you were to do this, you'll be sanding this too thin before it cuts this size. Alright, so it's the reason why I'm going to do just one side at a time. And I'm not putting the sandpaper, I'm not making it sand this, so I'm moving it away. My main concentration is just this area. Alright, so I'm not doing this. I'm not wrapping the sandpaper completely around. Alright, it's just almost like the idea, just like that. All right, now we can still get over here because this one still, we still need to cut higher here. The back end will be okay. All right, now we're just basically starting to blend it in. It's going to be kind of difficult once you get near the landing gear, but just take your time. And if you just take your time, guys, just like that, you will yield a nice finish, right? So let me go ahead and speed this thing up. Alright, guys, so I already put the I put saran wrap basically around on the wing base, that way no glue would stick, or this fillet won't stick to the actual wing. Alright, and so I also bolted the wing down. We're going to loosen up just a tad bit so that we can slide this wing fillet base in between the fuselage and the wing. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. Yeah, this is pretty high. Unfortunately, I don't have a lower airplane stand, so this is the best I'm gonna do. And my my countertop is too high as well, so I'm a double whammy on this one. All right, so we got the right side wing fillet is the one that is in two pieces. and basically I taped it together. As long as you can bend it, you know, we're good to go. The left side, it was all together. All I did was I made a score mark, not all the way through, and then bent it, you know, and cracked it in half type deal, so you have that slight bend. All right, and so now we're gonna go ahead and fit this in here. This line also represents where the aileron is at, or the flap, so this will eventually line up like that. All right, so let me go ahead and get this thing in between the wing. It's kind of hard to do it with the camera right there, so I'm gonna pause you guys real quick. I did score the line here so this can break easily. The right hand side base is already in 2 pieces, so I just taped it, and then when I do flip it over, when I glue this over under here, I will also glue that seam. Alright, let's go flip this thing over. Alright, so we got the wing basically, well, the whole aircraft upside down, and I had the rear fillet here basically pressed down, and then we just glued it thin CA. Alright, so just like this, just with its natural motion, you know, we're not forcing anything, just where it lays, and yep, it's good there. Alright, and from the rear it's gonna look even. Alright, and then we're just gonna glue it in with thin CA. I'm just gonna run the thin CA right here at this edge and then down. Alright, so I'm using the template that I made. So far I got one side done right here, and then now I have to cut this one out, and this basically is gonna go right on there just like so. Eventually we're gonna have to sand it and everything, get it all nice and pretty. Alright, this 1/16 piece of sheeting is pliable already without it being saturated in water or anything, but I just want to ensure that it really conforms to this area, alright, without any struggle. And as you can see, I just popped it on there without any struggle. I got the edge lined up here, nice and beveled. So what we could do is we could just add some glue there, and then we can start pushing the rest into the actual side of the fuse. Normally I just go straight into time lapse to speed up the build, you know, in the process, but I see some of you really want to see how it gets done, so I'll go ahead and just do this one. And I suggest to go check out Frank's Model Aviation Workshop, because my buddy there, he goes into detail when it comes to the build. All right, so go check out his channel. You will not be sorry, trust me. Awesome content. And I try to go reach for the glue, the thing pops off. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and just CA this now. There you go. Okay, that's not gonna go nowhere now. Alright, so now we can work from here forward. Alright, now you guys gonna find different ways to do this that'll be easier for you. So my way is not the highway type deal. Alright guys, this is just what I am doing. This is not the be all done all way of doing it. This is just the way Mike Bayona's doing it. All right. Once we cut this off, we could also put thin CA through the inside here and let it drip down in the inside, you know. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna just wet this a little bit more right here, just to give it, just to make it a little bit more pliable. All right. As you can see, I could push this down onto this former right here. There's this former right in here, and I want to make sure that this is pushed on there just like that. And then right about here, push it down just a little to give it a little swoop, just like that. And that's about it, really. And we could verify from the other side, and we should be good to go. Rock and roll. All right. And so from here, I want to put some CA on that former. You want to make sure that you got CA on there to hold the sheeting down. Otherwise, it will be loose. Alright. We're just going to push it down like that. Starting from the bottom and then working your way up. Just like so. Alright. Just like that. And then, like I said, here in the middle, I'll kind of push it down just slightly. Not too hard down, because you will, you know, I don't want to crack the material. And then from there, I'll just wick in some thin CA right there at the seam. And there you have it. We got this side, rear side done. All right. Now, let's go and move you to the rear of it so we can show you what I was verifying when I was looking at the back side. All right, so hopefully I can capture this. Ouch! Oh man, my knees. All right, so when I'm looking at both right here, right, making sure it's the sweep is the same as that, and I think I got it as close as I can. All right, just like so. All right, so we got that going on. All right, guys. So you can see my template right here. I went ahead and I cut it out. I made it just a little bigger, right, because of the sanding and everything like that, the beveling, and just also for fine tuning. We'll see if we need to trim it more and stuff. Right, I went ahead and I sprayed this lightly with some Windex, just like so. Just get it nice and saturated there, right? That way it's just, and then from there I'll kind of play around with the grain here, and I get it nice and broken in type deal. All right, that way it's just easier to really place this on there without so much stress. All right, so as you can see, I already got somewhat a little curve going on. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up at the base here, at the edge, and that's where we're starting from. Well, at least where I start from. And then you can see right when we get to the top end how it meets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push it back further, like so, overlapping the aft fillet, just like that. Then I'm going to get my pen, my gel pen, and I will trace out this section right here in the rear. Right about here, and this would give me the exact cut line for this piece. All right, and then while we're doing this, I'm also gonna get a little mark here for where my formers are at. Why do I need to know where my formers are at? Well, I want to ensure that I'm putting my finger someplace that actually has some backing or support. And so I don't want to push onto something. I don't want to push right here in the middle in these open areas, because then they'll crack. All right, I don't want to crack the balsa. And so I'm going to put my tape roughly about here, just right above the formers. Gives me a general idea of where these formers are at. All right, so when I'm putting it on here, I see it, I can put my finger right here and press on just the formers. I'm not pushing in between. All right, guys, so that's just a little tip there. You do how you will. Like I said, been doing this for a long time, but still there's a lot of things I haven't tried. Alright, so what I'm doing here now is I'm just getting my single edge razor blade, and I'm just trimming that line we did. Trying to be perfect, trying to get it down, and we can still sand it if anything. But what I do not want to do is push. Alright, guys, so we got the aft portion of the fillet already done up there. All right, and so I got the forward fillet, right? So I went ahead and I got it all measured out. I plopped it on here just like so. Tried to make sure that this will actually touch the actual former that's there, and I left this long, went right over it like so, got my mark, traced it, and came back and cut it off. All right, so I left this long based on the template itself, because the template, oops, whoa, almost broke my plane. The template is kind of long, right? As you can see how much I had to cut off. All right, so just leave it long, and then when you put the forward part over it, kind of line it up and see where it intersects, trace it, come back, cut it, and you'll have a perfect joint. All right, so when you butt this thing up, perfect. All right, so I went ahead and I saturated the sheeting with what you call this, Windex, because I wanted to really force this down and bend it so that it can sit on this former right here. All right, so my main thing is to make sure it lines up here like such. All right, kind of push it back in there, wedge it, and then make sure I'm able to push down on here, because right here's a mark and right here's another mark that I placed here, so I can push down on there. All right, and then this right here will situate itself there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add some CA to this joint here first to ensure that this stays with this shape. Now this shape is being held by the former in the back. All right, so this right here is touching the former completely. All right, and then from there I will just glue this. I'll put thin CA up on here after I attach these two, like so, and then thin CA at least right up to here so it holds everything down, and then we'll go ahead and start pushing everything in and start gluing it. All right guys, I hope you can see this, but for this area right here, all right, I decided to go ahead and just grab myself some construction paper type deal and kind of get my basic idea of, for one, the shape and the size. All right, and then we transferred it over to balsa, and I got this right here, and what this is gonna do, it's gonna basically get placed right there and then rounded, basically bent and glued onto this tip like that. All right, I don't know if you can see that. All right, so we're gonna have to wet this as well, and the main thing is just to get a fillet here, a filler basically to fill this void, this gap, and then we can really fine-tune everything when we start glassing it, and then when we're getting ready to do the panel lines and all, we can actually start mimicking like the outline of the area with the panel lines and all that stuff. All right, but the main thing right now is just to basically get this to be filled. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this. I'm gonna wet this up and then form it, glue it on here. I also beveled, as you can see, I beveled the edges. It's about like a 45. That way when it forms, when it rounds out, it'll become flush with the deck, right? Your horizontal and vertical fin and stab. All right, so just like that, I went ahead and wet it up, and went ahead and just basically started manipulating the sheet by bending it within my fingers and stuff. All right, so how I did that is, like, for example, let's say we got this piece right here. Let me just use this piece. I went ahead and I wet the area with Windex, and then once it was, you know, pliable and soft, I just went on the table and slowly just went with the grain and kind of crushing it, but at the same time kind of giving it that roundness that it's requiring. All right, and that way the more you form it now, the easier it would stay on without even forcing it. So I got it right here. It will be glued on just like so, and butt it up really nice, and then the filler will blend everything all in. All right, so just like that. So just imagine that it still has the continuation of the top all the way down. All right, that's basically how I'm gonna do that. All right, there you go. I got both sides done. All we need to do is just add body filler or wood filler just to lightly blend it in. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it right there. Bam. All right, guys. So what we're doing right now is we're actually doing the belly pan area, and so I just did finish laying formers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I also did the 3/16 stringer or stop right smack in the center. So I centered this as much as I could in between the two formers, and then centered it all the way down the middle of the actual aircraft. Alright, so from here we're gonna go and cut the sheeting that will basically wrap like that, and then last is basically the block. We need to do the block, but we also need to cut sheeting for down here, because there's a 1/16 sheeting that actually covers this whole section right here. Alright, and then the block. So yeah, other than that, that's what we're doing right now, getting it all prepared and ready for final assembly. Really, technically, that technically is the last thing that I got to do as far as construction is concerned of this aircraft. The rest is all just sanding. So we're almost there, guys. I had this former too far to the right, all this, and the center line, I followed the center line of the where the two sheetings meet, and that's why I put my stringer, because I had all the formers attached to the stringer first, and then I plopped it down on here. And even with that, you know, I was a little off, as you can see how I got this much on this side and more on this side. But you know, that's also depending on how I cant the wing to get it measured right. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's on the bottom, nobody's really gonna see that, but I know it. And the main thing was I ended up having to shave this side of those formers. I had to shave off some just to get it this far in, just so that when it meets up, it clears the flap area and goes all the way back. But yeah, so I'm blending all that in right there, as you can see, sanding it all, because before it used to look like this. So it's quite a bit of sanding, but no problem. And what I'm using for filler, and I've been using it for years, is that plastic wood, and Monaco goes over it, no problem, and fiberglass goes over it, no problem. But yep, that's what I use. And it, you know, natural wood, you couldn't even tell from a distance there's filler on there. Alright guys, I really appreciate you guys for sitting around and watching the whole video. If you did not watch the whole video, I do not blame you. Alright, so as long as you were here, you watched whatever you wanted to watch out of it, got whatever you got out of it, I'm more than satisfied. You know, this is my journey, my documented journey of the P40E Warhawk by Top Flite, and I enjoyed my time. Honestly, it's just an awesome build, and there's still more to come. We still gotta finish this aircraft. We still gotta glass it, 3/4 ounce glass, Z-epoxy finishing resin, and we're gonna do some panel lines, some rivets, and then we're gonna start weathering it. All right, but this is part of the journey. This is part of my journey, and I'm glad to share this with you, and hopefully you got something out of it, or just pure enjoyment. I know there's a lot of you guys out there who just like to sit down and watch, and just get into the build as well. All right, but then I know there's some out there that just, you know, just can't sit and watch something like this, that means it's not for you. But other than that, I really appreciate you guys for sticking around, and looking forward to part 5 of the Top Flite P40E Warhawk here at Bayona's RC World. So you guys take care, and don't forget to like and subscribe, share the videos. Alright guys, take care. Sheesh.